As the leader of the Booner Path, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff and Booner. It is Monday, December 29th. We are back. Lions-Bears week. Coming off a weekend with Lions not play. Still kind of processing Lions missing the playoffs. We have more to get to today. We have a big guest joining, Jeremy Reisman, Pride of Detroit, joining the show today. We got New Year's Eve this week, so the doc will be on tomorrow. Packed week. For honestly, I know it's not, at least the reward of the game might not be like it was, but it's still Ben Johnson versus Dan Campbell. So it's still Lions-Bears divisional game. So at the end of the day, even though the Lions aren't technically playing for anything, it's still going to be a good game. And we'll get into like the resting stuff. I don't know. You might have a pretty good game this week in terms of guys playing, at least starters for starters. So, and especially the game the Bears played last night. They want to get a win, man. It'll be a good week. I'm fired up about it.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It was a good weekend. It was actually like a nice weekend after the Lions played on Thanksgiving. It was kind of a nice weekend off. You know what I mean? Just didn't really. I put out there on Twitter on Sunday. I was like, I forgot there was football on this weekend or on Saturday night. Like that there were football games this last week, and so I'm starting to turn into that mode of we have to enjoy football without the Detroit Lions having any implications, which is kind of crazy. It's a little different. You got to think, though, too, Jeff, football-wise, you have the college football playoffs, I think, this next week, but you also have 3 matchups that are for the division this weekend in the NFL, which is incredible. So I know the Lions aren't in it anymore, but we got some good football over the next few weeks I'm excited about. I'm excited for this Lions-Bears thing, man. It's going to be interesting. It really is. I don't know if people remember, but the Lions ran the score up on the Chicago Bears back at Ford Field week 2, and Ben Johnson was asked about it after the game, and that was Ben was like, all right, it is what it is. And I'm not going to say I'm nervous, but I am a little like, okay, like, here we go. What's going to happen? Is Ben about to pull every trick in the bag to try and embarrass the Detroit Lions on Sunday? Would not be surprised.
Yeah. And it's going to be cold. It's going to be really cold in Chicago on that game for the game.
Dude, by the way, today's weather. Have you seen today's weather?
Yeah.
Luckily, I work from home today. Dude, the weather today was insane. Insane. Dude, there was like, hopefully if everyone in the chat is okay, there's been no accidents, family member, everyone's cool. But dude, there was like a 50-car pileup on I-75 today.
Yeah.
Like 50 cars, dude. That's nuts. I mean, dude, when I saw that, and then there's like other accidents everywhere else. It's insane, man. I saw a picture, dude. I don't know if it was real or not. This is just gullible Boone, I think. You know, like how hurricanes like are like the circle, like the hurricane. Dude, I saw a picture of over Michigan. It was like it looked like it was like a hurricane, but it was like a snowstorm. And I don't know if I was being pranked or not.
Yeah, well, it looked the weather. It was like because it's been raining, and now it's supposed to get really cold. It's a terrible mix.
And it's snowstorm today, and the wind.
Yeah, the wind. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been really bad. It was slick out, so it doesn't surprise me.
I'm glad I didn't drive today, dude. I'm glad I hate driving and stuff, dude. It's the worst.
Yeah, you know, and it just doesn't help. Already with the Lions kind of crapping at everyone. Of course, the weather is just absolute dog shit. So that's what people are dealing with right now. Now, I will say, watching that game last night, it might have made me more angry, to be honest with you, because I just seeing the Bears and 49ers go head to head, and you got to see, and again, this is no disrespect. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Dan Campbell, but I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about Bears 49ers. Just seeing 2 offensive minded guys go at it. It was awesome to see. It was from like a schematic standpoint, like the play calling throughout the entirety of the game. It was just ballsy trick. You had plays that were just, you had the throw to Luther Burden that Caleb Williams had. You had Brock Purdy making things happen. It obviously, I already know where people are going to take the game, take some of their takeaways. I already know where they're going to go with it. You saw 2 mobile quarterbacks running around making plays. I know that's what people were thinking last night watching that game, but it really was nice. It really was nice watching that game. It was just good. It was like a breath of offensive. It was a breath of fresh air for the offensive side of the ball. I know both defenses couldn't get a stop, but it was nice, man. I mean, you saw basically Kyle Shanahan and Ben Johnson just go at it. Like those are the matches. It's like watching Ram 49ers. You get to watch them sometimes too. So it was it made me more mad that Ben Johnson is not here, but it also, as like a football fan, it was a great thing to watch. Just Caleb and Brock slinging the ball around. I mean,
I'll tell you what, man. I can't believe you said first off Caleb in that sentence. I think last night was a testament to show, like in the NFL, why the Lions were so good the last few years with Ben Johnson. I'll just say that. Like the crazy, like I think about it, Jeff, a little bit. Watching last night's game, like you could be like, oh, the Lions had the number 1 offense, they score a lot of points, but like those moments, like the third downs, those just where you have to get touchdowns in big moments and drives that matter, like seeing Ben Johnson pull out, and they didn't score on it, but should have scored on it, but like a hook and ladder on a third down to essentially try and win the football game, and it almost worked. Like seeing stuff like that like the Lions just didn't do at all, haven't done this year at all. It is like seeing some of the route concepts and things that they had, like Colston Love. I don't know if you watched like some of the Colston Loveland's, like the schemes that they had to get him open and to get certain guys open. They didn't have any Roma Dunze. It's incredible. And we just don't have that in Detroit right now. That's why we're going to be sitting at home in 2 weeks. It is the difference between having a guy like Ben Johnson and having the Johnny Mo show.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you see, and this is the thing that I don't know if you guys have heard of this account. I think it's called Football Analysis on Instagram. It's like a dude it looks like he's in his 20s that just breaks down film. And he compared the Lions-Vikings game from this year, just last week, and how the Lions offense countered Brian Flores versus last year with Ben Johnson. He shredded the lot. Like it was Stan Campbell calling plays. So it was basically the comparison there. And he was just going off. This guy, he's a bright dude, but he's just going off. He's like, watch this clip from last year. And it's like Brian Flores, he likes to blitz. He likes to bring pressure. And Ben had these he would always counter it with like these 2 drag routes, or he'd always have a drag route so Jared could get the ball out. And then they showed like plays from this past game. And it's like Tesla's running a go route on a clear blitz. It's like Jared doesn't have time to get the ball out. Like, Jameer's lined up like 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It took forever to get to his spot. It was just like, and the guy's sitting there. He's like, what is this? Like, what is this concept versus a blitz? Clearly it's a blitz. And it just made me more pissed off on top of everything. I'm like, and again, love Dan, but there's just this, there is this thing to play calling where it is a chess match. And I think you see it with some of the guys that just have been doing it for a while. Yeah. And that's why I don't think Dan, even though he's doing it and he has, there's been moments where he's done it really well. I think wholeheartily, I don't think Dan wants to do it. I just don't think he wants to call plays. Like, I don't think that's his thing.
No,
he was never an OC before, I think he knows offense, but there's a difference between calling it versus actually knowing it. You know what I mean? He played tight end. Clearly he knows offense, but I just, you saw the differences there on how they countered Brian this year versus last year. It's so much different. So,
it's like the counter too, but it's like the biggest, what's been the biggest, like they've put up 1 million points the last 4 or 5 weeks. But the reason you've lost a lot of those games, you went on a 3-game losing streak, was because you come out of the third quarter so flat and you can't, it's been so drastically bad in third quarters. And what is that? That's adjustments at halftime. That's when the chess match really begins in a football game, right? Is when you come out of halftime. How do you make adjustments? What does Brian Flores do? What do these guys at the halftime do? Mike Tomlin's defense, like what are they doing coming out of half? And Dan just he hasn't been able to do that, and as well, be the head coach. So I'm with you. They need to figure that. You need to get an offensive mind, man. You literally saw it on display last night, and I think it's very, very well known now. The fact that the Chicago Bears, Jeff, and I didn't realize this until Saturday, I think it was, or early Sunday morning, that the Chicago Bears clinched the division. Like, that's heartbreaking. That's one of the most. Ben Johnson in year 1 went to Chicago, and congratulations to you, Jeff. Went to Chicago, and majority of the people had Chicago finishing last in the division, and they win the division. Literally, Jeff, they were last in the division last year. They just flipped spots with the Lions. We're last in the division. They're first in the division. It's honestly, it's really embarrassing. And Ben Johnson's he is the number one reason why. He changed the culture in Chicago. They already had some defensive, pieces there, but then he came in and he took it over. That's what this league's about, man. If you could put together a creative offense, you're going to win games in this league. And Ben Johnson has one of the most creative offenses in the entire NFL. And the Lions, whether they score 27 points a game, they can't figure it out for 4 quarters often. They can't get creative. When was the last time you saw like a hook and ladder or some sort of trick player, something to kind of throw the defense off this year? I don't think we've seen it one time. Once.
It's very
not
vanilla.
One creative play.
It's very vanilla. It's very predictable. It just doesn't look like it's just not.
And the only reason you score that many points, though, Jeff, is because you have the players that you do. Like, that's, in my opinion, you have the personnel that can go out there and make big plays and splash plays. And the reason Ben was so good here was because he had the players, but he also had that mind, and he also had the creativity with the offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's what the league is right now. Offensive play. It's just it's an offensive league. Now, you might have defensive coaches like Mike McDonald he's having success. There's going to be defensive coaches right now that are winning games, but in my opinion, based on history, unless you're Bill Belichick, usually it is offensive coaches that are hosting they're hoisting the trophy. They're holding it with a great quarterback. That's usually how it goes. So yeah, it's although you'd prefer your head coach to call plays, and we've already talked about this because it gives you a massive advantage in case your guys do get hired away. I keep bringing up the Eagles as an example because I had a comment today that was like, can we just stop bringing up the Eagles? It's not that I'm just bringing up the Eagles because I'm glazing the Eagles. It's because Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell have such a similar type of coaching style where they just hire coordinators to do their job. Which is not bad. They're like CEO kind of head coaches. That's like the best example I can give because what am I going to do? Compare you to the Rams or the 49ers, like guys that,
Andy Reid
comparison. It's like, it really is. That's why I try to look at what the Eagles have done, and they won a Super Bowl doing what they do. And, Howie Roseman's a great GM. I think Brad has a lot of potential. We talk about it, even though he's been pissing everyone off. But yeah, I think for Dan, it's a massive decision this offseason to get the staff right. And I have something to share with you actually later in the show. And I'm curious. I've already kind of shared it today on the morning show, but it's something that I'm curious what you think about it. It's something that I was told that I don't know if is completely true or not, but it is worth talking about. So we'll talk about the staff and what they do. I know people are talking about Brian Flores and make him the highest paid defensive coordinator. Brian Flores should be a head coach at this point. I don't know what's going on. He should be a head coach. He had his opportunity with Miami. I don't think he would leave Minnesota to be a DC again. Maybe he will. I don't know. So I don't think Brian Flores, people say Todd Bowles, like all that Todd Bowles is getting brought up. I know Jim Costa brought him up.
I think Todd Bowles, we brought that up 2 or 3 weeks ago about Todd Bowles to where if he does get
they've lost.
Yeah. But he's such a good defensive mind. Like he was the DC when they won the Super Bowl and he just has that, he's one of those guys to where I do think he's not the worst head coach in the world, but like he has just been, let's call it what it is. They've won a lot of divisions there with him as head coach, but they haven't won in the playoffs and they've been kind of average. Like go look at the last 4 or 5 years when Todd Bowles has been the head coach. They haven't had any seasons where they're like 12, 13 wins. They just been their division's just so bad. You can win that division. Look, they have a chance this weekend to win that division, Jeff, with 8 wins. They could go in there and win that game, and they're 8-9 and make the playoffs.
It's disgusting.
It's insane. It's insane. And same with the AFC North. They're kind of a similar way as well. By the way, this game just started, Jeff. I don't know if you want to put that. I sent you a bet, live bet.
I just put it in.
Okay, just wanted to remind you. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. The Brian Flores thing, there's zero chance he comes to Detroit. I think you just have to let this thing play out. I do think there's a world, and I think there's a world when you talk about like a new DC here in Detroit, if there's going to be with Shep, and I'm interested in. If I'm being honest, I thought today I completely forgot we played the Bears this week, and when Dan spoke today, I was like excited for a question to arise about the future of his coordinators and what his thoughts are, and then I realized, Booner, relax. It's not the end of season press conference. There's still week 18, so I'm excited, and I'm interested next week when Dan speaks to the media, what his comments will be in regards to Kelvin Shepherd. I think that, to me, that's one of the top things heading into this offseason. And you know what I think actually ends up happening, Jeff? I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably not what you want to hear and people want to hear. I think actually what happens is if there is a candidate that is worth it, I think Brad makes the move. But if not, I think Brad stays. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if Todd Bowles, or not Brad, sorry, Kelvin Shepherd stays. And if there's a Todd Bowles available, I think Dan makes that move. But if someone like that doesn't come to light, I don't see them, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I've said before, I hope Dan fires everyone not named Hank Fraley and Scotty Montgomery.
Those are the only two I think need to be safe on this.
Every single person.
I agree. I'm right there with you. I'm me and you are, and my guy Jesse Giambri. I like him.
Yeah. Well, he can.
He's Dan's right hand guy. He can stay. Yeah,
that's fine. I would fire every single person on this set besides those two. That's what I would do. I think you just need a fresh slate. Just fire everybody. And the reality, just to hit on the kind of put a bow on this Ben Johnson stuff. The reality is, you got to deal with that for the next decade, probably. So, Jordan Love, he's a good quarterback, right? Caleb Williams seems to be a good quarderback. Those guys.
Dave Fit, by the way, too. Sorry, I like Dave Fit. I'm in on Dave Fit.
Okay, we can keep Dave.
Okay,
Fit.
thank you. Sorry, that was bad on you. You really put me in a tough spot. Dave
yeah,
Fit.
make sure you mention that.
You said everyone, so we first start forgetting guys on the staff.
I think we have to have this conversation really like going forward. It's like you now have real competition in this division now, man. Like the Packers aren't going anywhere. They're going to have Mike. I know Mike tore his ACL, but he'll be back. They'll still be a pretty good team. The Bears, they have a young team. They're still going to, you assume it's linear. They'll get better. Anything can happen, I guess, but you assume they get better. Dennis Allen ain't going nowhere, so they'll have pretty good camaraderie on the staff. And then the Vikings, we'll see what happens with JJ. I mean, I don't know. The Vikings it seems like the Vikings right now are kind of a better version of the Bears, or what they've kind of been, where it's like you're kind of figuring out quarterback. But if they hit on their quarterback, JJ, it's like, you got a real player in there now.
I mean, they have the same record as you with the
that's what
worst
I'm saying.
personnel.
Yeah.
So and they beat you twice this year.
And Brian Flores could stay. So now you got three legit teams with legit quarterbacks, minus the Vikings for now, that are going to be battling you every year, man. Like, remember, this is what I think we forget this because it just happens. We accept it. And it's like, oh, it's fun. The Lions were sweeping the division for like 2 years, man. Like they were just winning all these games. That it's not
5-1, 6-0.
Yeah. I mean, we almost felt like, what did we say this year? I think we gave it another like 4-1, 5-1, whatever it was.
They beat everyone once and they might get one or two teams twice. we really They lost like the surprising one too, is like in the division. You lose to the Vikings twice. That alone, I think, is like that was supposed to be them and the Bears, the worst team. At least you got one no matter what on the Bears. To not split versus the Vikings, I think, is the most outrageous thing to ever happen, especially when you go up against I don't even know his name's Max Brosmer, and then JJ McCarthy with like his 4th career start. Like it's one of the most insane same things I've ever seen in my life. Can I ask you a question about this DC thing? And I just want to backtrack 1 second because it made me think of something that's potentially going on in this offseason and potential coordinator that might be available. Well, that probably will be available. Can I throw a name out there? I don't know if I'm in favor of it. I want to see where the people I want to gauge the people's mind.
Okay.
I think there's a serious chance that Aaron Glenn gets fired at the end of the season. I saw a tweet today that said his job is not safe. And if I had to guess, Aaron Glenn will not be in New York at the end of the season. How would people feel if Aaron Glenn makes a return as the defensive coordinator to Detroit? Again, I said I'm not in favor of it. I just wanted to get a gauge of the room. I want that clear.
I don't know.
I think I'm out on it. I think
I got respect for him because we bring him up all the time, how they had injuries last year and he kept this thing on defense together until it wasn't good enough, but he tried. But I just don't, this is how I look at it. I'm sick and tired. I am sick and tired. We've been covering the Lions for years. I'm running out of patience watching a mid-ass defense. I'm sick of it, man.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Sick of it, dude. And I don't think I'm not saying Aaron Glenn, obviously, when he got here, he didn't have a ton to work with, but and then his last year, he really didn't have anything to work with. So it's tough, but I'm just sick of it. I just want a coordinator, and maybe you need to go find another one. That's why I'm not willing to give Calvin more time. I'm running out of patience with it, man. There's no reason why you shouldn't, as a contender, have a good defense. And it's not like the Bills, where the Bills have had good defenses and now they're kind of having a down year. The Lions have never had a good defense under Dan Campbell.
And you could argue, you could also argue they do have the personnel to have a good defense. They have some of the best at their position, Jack. That's what I'm saying. You have all pro and Pro Bowlers all around that, scattered all over that defense.
I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. So no, actually, to answer the question, no, I wouldn't. I want potential. I want someone to come here and everyone's like, wow. Like when Robert Saleh got to the 49ers and he was coaching there, it's like, this guy's a stud. Why can't we have that?
I agree.
I want that, dude.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I think the problem too, with the Shepard hire.
I just want someone to look at this team and look at the defense, man. I'm sick of it.
I think the issue too, with the Shepard hire, and again, love Kelvin Shepard, think he's a great mode. You know what I mean? He has that side. But the thing is, it's you didn't have a good defense under AG, a top 10 defense, essentially. You had a good run defense, but you never really put out an elite defense where people are like, Vic Fangio. The problem is you had that and you hired within. So it wasn't like you hired someone that has been a part of a great defense already. You know what I'm saying? You hired someone that's under Vic Fangio, or you hired someone under Robert Saleh, or someone under Todd Bowles, some of these elite defensive minds. You didn't hire someone. You just hired someone that worked for the last 4 or 5 years under a mid defense, and all they know, and Shep might know, obviously he's probably been around good defenses in his career, but when you're talking about coaching wise and that, we haven't had a top 5, top 10 defense in the NFL. The Lions have it. So you're sitting there in just a spot where you're he doesn't have that experience, which I don't know. I'm kind of with you on that side too with AG. I'm just more so if someone does become available that is at that Dennis Allen level, that is at that Todd Bowles level, those levels of coordinators, Robert Saleh, then yeah, I would be very, very you need to attack that and go after a guy like that.
It's concerning to me. Why this is and I understand this is what I would ask you. And then maybe I'm curious about this. And I know part of it is because Dennis Allen was already a head coach. But do you think let's say Calvin didn't get promoted, do you think Ben would have took him to Chicago? I think that would answer the question. That would answer the question right there. Let's say
I don't know. Did he interview him?
No, but I think he assumed he was getting the Lions job. But that's where I'm thinking, why didn't he pluck someone from the Lions staff? Bring someone from that defensive staff. He went and got Dennis Allen. He's like, I'm going to get some. But he did take someone from the offensive staff, JT Barrett. He did take some.
Antoine Randall, elite wide receivers coach. Elite wide receivers coach.
Defensively, he's like, I'm good. I'm going outside this building, man. I'm cool. I'm going to get Dennis Allen. It's and then Dan,
he didn't just he wasn't just I just want to get a guy that I like. He was I want to get the best of the best.
DC. Yeah.
And I think that's what where we've gone wrong. And it's not just that the Lions and Dan's gone wrong. Dude, you've seen that in other areas. Philly 2 years ago, Nick Sirianni was we're going to hire within. I want to do what we've seen McVay and some of these guys do, grow guys within our organization. And they do that, and it is very underwhelming, And then they went out and got proven guys. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio.
And then did it again.
They won a Super Bowl, and then they hired within again. And then what's happened this year with Philly? They're making the playoffs, but there's been so many issues within that offense.
They had 17 yards of offense, Boone, in the second half. The Eagles.
I'm telling you.
17 yards of offense. I don't think people understand how crazy that number is. And they hired from within. They got Kevin Patullo. It hasn't worked out. He'll be fired. That's already a given. So, yeah, it's I'm sick and tired of it, man. I just want people to – I'm sick of it. I saw someone donated some – I want to get to some of these. Nobody appreciate it. He says, just woke up from a coma from December 2023. What's good? Word on my lion.
Let me tell you, hey, I didn't say that. Let me tell you about something real quick.
You'll never believe it, man.
The 2025 Detroit Lions have been eliminated from the playoffs.
He said, never mind. Going back to my coma. Appreciate the $2 and the $5. Nobody. Vision South, appreciate the 10. He says, even under AG, we had a high-powering offense, which forced the other team to pass more. So was the run D really good? I would give them that. Their run defense was pretty good. They had a pretty good run defense with AG. I get what you're trying to say, that you score a lot of points, teams have to pass the ball, but you saw with Aaron Glenn, it was a good run defense, no matter who was in there, which was just, it shows how good of a coach he was on defense. But they had remember Pat O'Connor. I mean, there were stretches where Pat O'Connor was playing.
I liked Pat O, but then all of a sudden they didn't use him. I'm interested. Listen, I think this offseason, I'm just very interested in how this thing gets approached. Defensively, I think that's going to be a massive. I know a lot of people talk about the offense, and that's the big questions, but I think defensively, the run defense going into this offseason, I just see the drop off of. If you look at those categories, man, the drop off, you have to figure something out defensively. You can't keep doing the same thing from the last couple of years, man.
I agree with you. Let's bring on someone who can answer those questions for us. Jeremy Reisman covers the Detroit Lions for Pride of Detroit. He's joining us. Jeremy, what is going on, my friend?
What's going on, fellas? I don't know if I have all the answers, to be clear. I don't know if I can fix the Lions myself, but I'll do my best to try.
Yeah, well, just say to us you can, because we need any hope we can get. I'm waking up pissed off. I'm going to bed pissed off, Jeremy. So I'll go to you in the first question. I just want I guess I know the season's not technically over, but you see the Chicago Bears play last night. Obviously, high scoring game with the 49ers, and I know people are probably watching that game just shaking their head, thinking to themselves what was with Ben Johnson. But looking at this just entire season, what is, I know it's hard to gather thoughts, but in your mind, what are some of the bigger reasons the Lions have gotten to this point where they're missing the freaking playoffs? What has kind of gone through your head? You've had time to think about it. How did the Lions end up here, Jeremy? Covering this team?
To me, it starts with the offensive line. I know that's a boring answer, and I know it ignores half of the football team that, finished bottom 10 in a lot of stats on the defense. But the offense going through some of the struggles that it did, you think about some of these key games down the stretch, that Rams game down the stretch where you have a lead at halftime and then you come out of the half and it's 3-and-out because you can't get a run game going, and you can't get the run game going because your offensive line isn't giving any room for your all-pro players in the backfield. And it really was a problem all season long. And I've been kind of talking about this on all my previews every week. It's like early on in the season, we kind of ignored how bad the running game was because there was like a 70-yard run from Gibbs, and like that made it look like, oh wow, they averaged 6.7 yards per carry this game. When you kind of like you play the Kelvin Shepard game of it, and you take the one big run out of the game, and it's like this running game wasn't effective all year. It wasn't effective in short yardage situation. It wasn't effective in setting up third and manageables. And when you do that, when you go quick 3-and-outs, when you aren't able to extend drives, that puts more pressure on your defense. I think when this team has been most successful in the past 4 or 5 years, it's been that running game that is allowed, taking pressure off the defense, gotten them into, shootouts that they could win, and, controls the tempo of games. And I think we got it mixed up a little bit during the season. Like, oh, they just need more David Montgomery. Oh, they just need, more running in second half. We need to not abandon the run. No, the run just wasn't good this year because our offensive line wasn't doing anything. And I think there's some big questions for Brad Holmes that we're going to hear from in a week or so here about what what the thought process was there. What was the thought process on letting Kevin Zeitler go? What was the thought process at center? Did you know that Frank was going to retire? Was Tate Ratledge going to be your guy next year for Frank? And the fact that Frank retired after the draft, after free agency, did that throw your plans off? I'm really interested to know the answers to those questions, because it's hard to hold anyone accountable when you don't know the information that they don't know yet. But I think that's where Brad is probably facing the biggest questions this offseason.
Yeah, Jeremy, I do want to just kind of continuing off that, because we actually had this conversation last week. That was one of the things that I said. The number one thing was the O-line, because it's hard, for even Jared Goff being protected and open up. It just essentially everything. Like, they've built this team from the inside out. It felt like the conversation we had last week was, it felt like Brad let this slip, thinking maybe that they were able to get by 1 year. How do you think Brad can approach this offseason? Like, the conversation we had was, do they go in free agency and get a tackle or a guard, or do they go through the draft and get a tackle or guard? Like, you know what I mean? There's so many questions on that and the value of players. But essentially, if you want to, in my opinion, like, if they want to win next year and continue to kind of get back on track here, you have to build essentially an offensive line in one offseason. How do you think they can do that? And if not, do you think that's something that you don't think they can do this offseason?
I mean, the big challenge is just your limited resources, right? You don't have a ton of cap space. You're obviously going to restructure some contracts and create some, and you'll be able to make a splash move or two if you really, really want to. And then obviously you only have 2 draft picks in the first 100. So you've got limited opportunities to do so. But yeah, I mean, we've seen teams do it. It's easy to point to, like, the Chicago Bears. They had a ton of offseason resources and they completely flipped that offensive line. And so you have to get a little creative with it if you're the Lions with your limited resources. But I would say, do you do it in free agency? Do you do it in the draft? Why not both? All right. Like, get yourself opportunities to get a veteran of the group. You have to eventually prepare for the departure of Taylor Decker, whether it happens this offseason or next or the year after that. Graham seems like he's probably not long for this roster if that means getting rid of him this offseason or next. So, I mean, there's always going to be a transition in that offensive line. And if I had to guess, maybe Brad didn't want it all to happen at once, like it kind of did this past year. But then, like, it's going to happen a little bit more in the future. And so this is why it's so important for Brad to continue to hit on his draft picks, and why I think people are looking at that 2024 draft class, looking at this most recent draft class and saying, hey, you took these big swings on these players that aren't doing anything. What if we had drafted an interior offensive lineman instead of Giovanni Manu? What if we had drafted, so-and-so? And like, listen, they also did address the offensive line. We can't ignore the fact that they really like Miles Frazier. They really like Christian Mahogany, and, it didn't go right for either of those players in terms of injury this past year. And that certainly didn't help. But, I do think they need to consider making an aggressive move in free agency to shore that position up, because I think that the major lesson that we learned, and it was one that I think they were already well aware of, is this team that's the one position this team can't afford to skimp on. It makes everything fall apart offensively, which in turn hurts your defense.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think the conversation, me and Booner always laugh at it because it's like a routine thing every year. I mean, you know what it is. You're on social media, but the Jared Goff stuff. I mean, it's anything can happen. And people are like, we got to replace this dude. It seems like this is like a yearly thing. Jared's contract obviously he starts getting incredibly more expensive. Obviously, the cap hit, you mentioned restructuring it. But for the people out there, they're watching the Bears 49ers game. You're seeing 2 mobile quarterbacks running around, make plays. I get why it's enticing, but I think people forget the year Jared had. I think he solved, in my opinion, a lot of questions this year. I mean, people bring up the offensive line needs an offense, which is undeniable, but he played really well with all the struggles. You know what I mean? He played really well, although he didn't have anyone protecting him. Yeah, he's a Ben Johnson merchant, which certainly coaching always helps. He played really well with 2 offensive coordinator changes. There's barely any run game, like you mentioned. Why is it that we keep circling back to this conversation? And in your opinion, I've seen takes out there. I think Valeni just mentioned they should do what the Packers did and draft like a Jordan Love. Why do we always circle back? I think it's the easy thing, Jeremy, but in your mind, you've been doing this a while. Like, why do people always circle back to blaming Goff? What's up with that?
Well, I mean, part of it is just you're the quarterback, right? Like, to me, this was the ultimate Matthew Stafford season where, you didn't have a good offensive line, you didn't have a running game, you didn't have a defense, and Jared Goff pulled you to a 500 football team. If that's not a Matthew Stafford season in Detroit, I don't know what is. And yeah, Matthew Stafford saw the same sort of criticism where, he's not a mobile quarterback. He's not getting it done. He has like these rare 5 turnover games that come out of nowhere that certainly doesn't help his own case. I mean, he was bad on Christmas. I can't sit here and defend how he played in that game, but to me, it's just, when your quarterback is asked to carry an entire team and he doesn't to a Super Bowl, then for some reason, everyone points to the quarterback rather than, the 25th ranked defense, the terrible, the running game that ranks like 22nd in success rate. It ultimately all falls on the quarterback. And it's also, the quickest way that people think you can turn around a franchise, right? If you just get the next Josh Allen, if you just get the next Patrick Mahomes, if you just get the next whoever, you can turn around in a hurry. And sure, that all sounds nice and great. But again, like the Lions have limited resources here. They need to fill a bunch of holes on defense. They need to fill a bunch of holes on the offensive line. And you want to spend one of your 2 top 100 picks on a quarterback? I mean, sure, go for it if you really, really think that's a worthwhile investment, but you're not going to get anything out of that for the first 3 years of that guy's career. So, that's another quote unquote wasted pick for we need, someone that can impact now, because Jared Goff isn't going anywhere for the next 3 years. The way that contract is structured and the way that they pretty much have to restructure it this year because of the high salary, they're going to be kicking a lot of money down the line. So, I mean, even if you think Jared Goff needs to be replaced, I got bad news for you. I mean, you better start following another team, because Jared Goff is going to be this team's quarterback for quite some time.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think you're spot on with that. Another thing I want to ask, this seems the other controversial topic here in Lions fan base, the defensive side of the ball, the Kelvin Shepherd stuff, all of that. I just kind of want to straight up ask you, like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they need to, and Dan needs to look into a new DC? Do you trust Kelvin for another year? The conversation Jeff and I actually always have about it is more so, or do you think you have the time for a defensive coordinator to develop into his own with what you have right now? What are your thoughts on that? And if you do think maybe they move on from Shep, who do you think they go after, and what are some DCs to look into?
Yeah, I mean, to start there, I don't think they're going to move on from Kelvin Shepherd. I think you've seen enough flexibility in Kelvin Shepherd to at least have some sort of level of faith that he's going to take this offseason to I don't know, just kind of reassess everything that he's about. They did solve some problems this year, like stopping a mobile quarterback, which was something that has plagued this franchise for, 2 decades now. And I saw enough diversity week to week in game planning for me to believe that maybe things can turn around in in the long term. And I just think Kelvin Shepherd was the guy that they grew to be their long-term replacement for Aaron Glenn. And I'd be surprised to see them kind of pull the ripcord on that plan after one bad season where, you did lose 2 all-pro safeties. You did deal with, some more injuries on the defensive line. You didn't have Levi Onwuzurike, who you thought you were going to have all season. You didn't have Josh Pascal. You didn't have Marcus Davenport. And some of those fall on your general manager more so than him. Now, that being said, there's enough talent on that defense that they should have played better than they did this year. They're continually getting worse. Their run defense is I can't even explain why it's getting worse. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense why it's getting worse. So, if I'm Brad Holmes, if I'm Dan Campbell, I'm looking at that defense and I'm saying, let's get him a little bit of help. Let's bring in a veteran voice in that coaching room to help him bring in some new ideas. Maybe challenge the status quo when it comes to this team's overall philosophies of like, hey, we got to stop the run first and then, earn the right to pass rush on 3rd down. And we don't want to, rush up the field and lose our contain on our pass rushing lanes. We want to make sure we close the pocket. Well, maybe you do just want to get a guy who can rush and just get there and just force chaos. And yes, sometimes maybe a quarterback is going to run for 20 yards on you, but it's going to be worth it for the extra 5, 6, 7 sacks you get. Maybe it's going to be worth it for the extra pressure you get that'll force an errant pass and a turnover and things like that. I would like to see a little bit of a philosophical and schematic change to the defense, and whether my question though is whether Dan Campbell would want that. He seems to be pretty steadfast on let's play, our base defense a bunch. Let's play a bunch of man coverage. I'd like to see a little bit more flexibility from the top down. And I think that starts with Dan Campbell more so than it does Kelvin Shepherd.
Yeah. Last question for you, Jeremy. I'd like to know just your thoughts on some of the guys that could potentially return. Me and Booner talked about it. We talked about it last week, but just with AQM for agents, with being a free agent, you got AQM, DJ Reader, you have Josh Pascal, Levi Onwuzurike. How many of those guys you actually think return? Or because I could see both scenarios. I could see Brad. People make jokes about him loving his own guys. I can see some of those guys coming back, but then I can also see the argument of, hey, we just need a breath of fresh air in the defensive line room with Marcus Davenport as well. But how many of those guys do you see actually returning to the Lions?
It's a really good question. I think Marcus Davenport is kind of like the Emmanuel Mosley, where it's like, we gave you 2 shots. That's all we can afford. We're not gonna try a 3.0 season for him. Al-Qadim Muhammad, to me, is going to be one of the more fascinating decisions, because I think the Lions like him a lot. He obviously has 11 sacks this season. My question is, what is the market for a kind of undersized, fast 31-year-old guy having his first 10 sack season of his career? Is there going to be a big market for him? Is he going to touch $10 million a year? If so, I think he may have priced his way out of Detroit. I don't know if he hits that mark, though. I think the Lions will try to bring him back. To me, the most tricky ones are your Levi Onwuzurikes and your Josh Pascals. It's tough to justify bringing either of those guys back, considering this team's track record of bringing back guys who've been injured. I mean, how many times has that worked out for them so far? Is there a single instance of it working out where they're like, let's just see if you can get over that injury hump? It feels like it hasn't worked
right
4, 5, 6 times at this point. So and then I think maybe the other one in the room is Amik, right? He's a guy that fits what the Lions do so well. He's an excellent locker room guy, an excellent practice guy, and a guy that can, be a versatile guy. Maybe you don't want him to be a starter next year. Maybe you do. But either way, I think having a guy that can be either your starting nickel if you need a starting nickel, or your primary backup to both nickel and outside corner, I think that's a guy you need to try to prioritize. And early in the season, it looked like he may have priced his way out of Detroit, but he hasn't played particularly well down the stretch. And I feel like maybe that works to the Lions' advantage, and maybe they do bring him back too.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, everything's on the table for Brad Holmes. We appreciate you, Jeremy. Keep up the great work. You guys can follow Jeremy, of course. Stay up with the Lions news at Detroit Online. Jeremy, we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Good luck this weekend. Have a happy New Year as well.
You too, buddy.
There you go.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Jeremy Reisman joining the show, talking to the fellas here, previewing Lions Bears, also kind of talking about the offseason. I actually wanted to bring this up to you, and I think it's very relevant to what we were talking about right before Jeremy joined, but I did want your thoughts on this. So this is someone that you do know, and he's been watching us for a while. Okay, this is someone, I talked about this on the show this morning. It's information that I was told, and I don't know how true this is. So I'm going to preface it by saying that I don't know how true this information is, but I feel like I'm owed. I owe it to the people that watch the show to at least share what I'm told. So here's what
who is it? Are you allowed to say?
I'm not going to, I'll tell you off air. I'll just tell you, but I don't want to share. I don't want to throw the person under the bus, but it's no one. How about this? It's no one the people in the chat would know. They're not like, it's not like a Lions beat writer or anything, but someone that is connected to agents and people in the NFL. So they reached out to me, ran into him at a bar, like probably about, you were actually there. It's probably like a month ago. And he texted me and he said, just like with information, he said, essentially, hey, I'm getting word because apparently organizations will sometimes, or people within organizations will sometimes reach out to like coaches, agents and stuff like that and kind of get like a feel for things. So he kind of, heard some things. And this person told me that don't be surprised. I think the words he exactly uses, there is a 90% chance that the Lions will bring back Shepard as defensive coordinator. They're expected to go get an OC, but the candidates they are looking at are far inexperienced as having little to know as like an ex-head coach, OC. Like it could be like an assistant on a staff. You know what I mean? Like, so something like that. So what I was told is Calvin Shepard could be back, and the new OC could be someone that isn't like Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll, something like that. And again, don't know how true that is. We're just kind of speaking of it hypothetically if that is true. I think because you asked Jeremy and he said I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. If Calvin Shepard returns to the Lions, and they take another chance on another guy, an OC, I guess I'd really have to know where you're getting this guy from. It would be another massive risk. At least you're going outside the organization. But also, if you're hiring a guy that doesn't have experience as an ex-head coach or an OC, that could also be Hank Fraley, Scotty Montgomery. That we got to at least throw them in the equation, right? That's at least got to be in the equation. Those guys have not been OCs or head coaches. But let's just say it's outside the organization. That's a risk. That would be, I think Lions fans would be pissed, extremely pissed, if you go into next year with an inexperienced OC again in Kelvin Shepherd after this past year, after what happened this entire year. I mean, I get what Jeremy was saying. Maybe you bring in someone that has experience as like a defensive guy that can help Kelvin. But it's just like, Dan, you can't go down with your guys, man. You can't go down with your guys, man. You gotta make bold moves on your coaching staff. You got to. And I think this would be settling and potentially putting yourself in the same position you were this year when it comes to a coaching staff. So it is news that I really hope is not true. And we'll revisit this in a couple months or whatever when they do hire their coaches, but that would be very disappointing. So what do you think about that? If that was the case, Kelvin back, inexperienced OC.
By the way, I did message you my guess on who it was. I wasn't serious with it. Did you like my guess?
Terrible guess.
Dang. Can you say who it was? I don't know. You said I talked to the person a couple weeks ago. I'm interested.
Yeah, there you go. I told you. So he's so there's what do you think about that reaction?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
what do you think about that?
If I'm being honest with you, like, this is just me being like, hey, what do I want to happen compared to what do I actually genuinely feel like is going to happen? What's going to happen, and based off of everyone's conversations, we've talked to Jeremy about it on the Lions Collective. You know, I've heard Justin Rogers talk about it last week. I'm sure a lot of the beat writers have a similar thought process on it. Almost every single person that is around the organization when it comes to writers and reporters that we know, I have heard 100% of them, maybe outside of the doc. I don't know the doc's opinion. We can ask the doc tomorrow, but 100% of them essentially, I have heard say that they believe that Kelvin Shepherd will be back next year. And I get the sense, and I'm very prepared to kind of go through that process of Shep is going to be your DC next year. And there's two sides to it. Like, you do understand. I think that the one side of it, of him coming back, is, hey, it was his first year ever. You would think he can only get better. And as Jeremy said, he takes the offseason to kind of assess and adjust what he might have made some mistakes. And he hopefully will have his all-pro safeties back. And obviously, like, there's going to be more injuries next year. And I think for me, the biggest issue with the Shep thing is like AG last year. Like, I think such a prime example is AG last year put out a top 10 defense. Is whether you want to believe it or not, they were last year 10th in points per game. Or no, not 10th. They were 7th in points per game. They were third in their first and third down defense, like 5th in rush defense. They were getting turnovers. And AG was doing that with a million injuries, right? So, like, for me, there was essentially no excuse this year when there were injuries, whether it was your all-pro safety, whether it was a defensive lineman or a corner. Like, there was no excuse this year, in my opinion, for Kelvin Shepherd not to have a successful defense. Because if you are a part of a Super Bowl roster, whether you're a developing DC or not, or a rookie DC or not, the expectation is the expectation of putting out a good defense to help this team win a Super Bowl, right? And anything less than that, guess what that is? It's only called one word. That's a failure. It's a failure of a year. And to have faith going into a second year, like I said this before a couple of weeks ago, Jeff, if this was year 2 or year 3 in the Dan Campbell regime, when AG, didn't have the best defenses, but you saw a little improvement year after year. Like, if this was Shep year 1 in the regime, okay, like, I would say let's keep rolling with Shep because, we're building together. But the fact you're in year 4, year 5, year 6, you're in that Super Bowl window, you just don't have the room for the growth. you don't have the room to have a year of failure, right? Like next year, what do we talk about going into next year? Whether Brad and Dan want to believe it or not, like the seat is going to be very, very warm next year. And if you go out there and you roll with Shepard again, and the reason you don't win a Super Bowl, if it turns out to be the defense and there's another lapse in the defense, I'm not blaming Kelvin Shepard. Like, yeah, I am, because he needs to have a better, but I'm blaming Dan Campbell for not adjusting his staff.
Yeah, keeping him. Yeah.
That's seeing like you have a full season of, a play on the table and what has Shep done and whether you like him again. Again, this goes back to, hey, this isn't a family business, man. Like this is a production business. This is a results business. And if the results are there, do you want to know the results, Jeff? Like full transparency. Are you ready for the results here? You want to hear something crazy?
Let me hear it.
The Detroit Lions defense 2024 to 2025. 2024, they had almost, I think, like 20 defensive players on the IR, 15 to 20 throughout the season.
No Aiden.
A lot of massive players were out last year. Let's go over the results. It's a results business. I think Shep said that this year. So in 2024, the Detroit Lions had the 5th best run defense in the NFL. In 2025, they had the 16th best run defense currently in the NFL. In 2024, Jeff, the Detroit Lions had the 7th best defense when it comes to points per games. 7th. That's a top 10 defense. In 2025, it's 23rd. You're at the bottom half of the league. In 2024, you had the best third down defense in the NFL. Number 1 third down defense in the NFL. In 2025, you weren't even a top 10 defense on third down. You were 11th in the NFL when it comes to third downs. In 2024, Jeff, you had the 2nd best fourth down defense, getting stops on 4th down. In 2025, dropped all the way down to 25th. And then the most shocking one, at least to me, is last year, you were top 10 in turnovers in 2024, and this year you were 20th in turnovers. 20th. A stat that essentially wins you football games on defense and gets you extra possessions. You were 20th. So majority, and I didn't name some stats, yards per game, they were around the same. They were top 20. Points per game or passing yards per game, they became a better passing defense. That's something to hang your hat on. But when you look at the full skeleton and the structure of this defense and lay it all on the table, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 main categories of defense that I laid out here. And 5 out of the 8, you regressed. And you didn't just regress in like 1 or 2 spots in the NFL. You regressed almost double in every single one of those categories. Yes. And you could blame injuries, but there were injuries last year. This year, you just did not look good. You didn't look prepared. There were penalties in big moments in big games that you lost where there were too many men on the field. There were too many times where the scheme just was off by a little bit, and you got thrown for 400 yards versus Jameis Winston and the New York Giants when they don't have their starting quarterback or their RB1 or their or wide receiver 1. And they threw for 500 yards and almost beat you. You should have lost that game, and it was because of your defense. So, yeah, like I think Lions fans are in the right of questioning their DC. And, I think in a typical NFL setting, you would say, hey, give the guy another year, let him grow, get a feel for it. You know what I mean? Like he finally has a feel for it, let him adjust and make his adjustments in the offseason. But I think when you're now in year 3 of a Super Bowl era, and you have now, 1, you lost the NFC Championship game because of your defense, essentially. 2, you lose in the divisional round last year versus the Commanders, and then this year you don't make the playoffs, essentially because of your defense. I think there has to be changes, or it's a bad offseason. And I don't think there will be. At the end of the day, I really don't think there's going to be changes. I think they're going to keep Kelvin Shepard.
I did this this morning. I went and looked at the top 5 teams that have had injuries, games missed due to injury. Top 5 teams. Lions are on that, of course. Out of the top 5 teams, 4 of the 5 are going to make the playoffs. The one that won't is the Lions. So that's where the injury excuse just doesn't really work, because 4 of the top 5, 49ers, Bears are up there. Bills are up there as well. Like, there's teams that have missed a ton of guys due to injury, and they're going to still make the playoffs. Like, it's somewhere contending for their division. Now, you could bring up the schedule. You looked like crap against the Vikings to Max Brosmer. You gave up 400 yards to the Giants. Like, we can't just nitpick or just cherry pick games. Well, they did play the Rams. Well, they also lost to the Vikings twice, okay, with JJ and Max Brosmer. Like, we can play that game back and forth. It's like, well, the schedule's harder. No, you didn't take care of teams you're supposed to take care of, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's not just the schedule's harder. No, you lost to teams you're better than. So, yeah, the defense is significantly fell apart. I mean, it has. I would make the change, but who am I? I'm just talking into a microphone. You want to talk some Brad Holmes?
One thing too, though, with that, last thing with the Shep thing and the defense, I think there would be a little bit of a difference in optimism going into next year if this team did make the playoffs. But the fact that you didn't make the playoffs and defensively you regressed in like major ways, to where like if you just regressed a little bit defensively, you're probably going to be playing in January. You know, like you're going to be like that's just a fact. If you didn't regress a little bit or as much as you did defensively, you're probably going to be playing playoff football. And I think that's the biggest difference, to where say you made the playoffs and lost in the first round, then maybe you can have an argument like, hey, they were able to still kind of just, the defense wasn't terrible, but they just weren't good enough. So, hey, give them another year. Then next year they're going to be good enough. In my opinion, it's like, you just look at the facts and the numbers, and there's just there's no positives, in my opinion, coming out of it.
No. I want to talk Brad Holmes when we get back. We'll get into that conversation. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. We'll see you in a minute. We'll get into Brad Holmes. I've interrupted the video to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper in the new promotion they have going on. A brand new promotion is now live on Sleeper that could be paired with the 100% deposit match promotion that's already been going on. It's a free $20, no deposit required, plus first-time users will also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Use the code CT Sports. You guys should already be using Sleeper. It's one of the fastest organically growing fantasy platforms in the entire world, with millions and millions of active users. They are crushing it. And if your state allows it, you should be using Sleeper Picks. It's a real money product that connects friends over picks. You just choose 2 to 8 of your favorite players from pregame live or across different sports. Pick more or less than the predicted stats. And on Sleeper, you can get up to 1,000x payouts. Share with your friends. Get rewarded together. Don't forget, code CT Sports. Get a $100 deposit up to $100, and you got your free $20 entry. Sleeper is taking care of their customers. Always remember, gamble responsibly. Now let's get back to the video. All right, let's get into it. Brad Holmes. Mike Vlunny went on an insane rant today. I saw it trending on Twitter. He was talking about Jared Goff, too, which we can kind of talk about at the end, because I actually am curious where you're at with that. The whole Lions pulling a Packers and grabbing a quarterback at some point, because here we go again. We're going to talk about it. But Dan and Brad are going to make significant changes this offseason. That's what Dan said. What does that look like to you, Boone? How do you feel? What do you think? How does that look like to you going into the offseason? Because I don't know if I really believe that. I don't know how much what does that even look like? Significant changes in the offseason. We have a lot of things. What do you say? We're going to make some changes.
Let's make some changes. Do we have to, by the way? I actually just thought of this on our Crunch Time account. I think the other day I posted the video of Dan talking about that. Did I not? Oh, I thought I did. Oh, I did. Do you want me to play this?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's essentially, though, real quick, it's 2 separate questions that were asked, but they kind of go hand in hand. Can you guys hear that? Can you hear that?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at a lot, I'm going to be looking at a lot of things because I do not like being home for the playoffs. And I know our guys don't either. So, and there again, whenever you lose, man, it takes a village, man. Everybody's involved, including myself, So I'm always going to look at myself first, I'm always going to wish I would have given golf more, given those players more. Brad and I have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of things to look at, the whats, the whys, the how do we improve, because we need to improve.
To start looking at.
Yeah. So Dan basically, he said at the end there, me and Brad have, some decisions to make. I think where I'm, and I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to look at what we've seen out of Dan and Brad. Because again, we've seen, I'll speak from the standpoint of Brad. We haven't seen a lot of those significant decisions really be made. We've seen, he hasn't really shown he's that big, significant decision maker. It's more, in the draft, you find guys, draft, develop, extend, and then fill in some holes. You replace Carlton with DJ Reed, but it's not like there's like these significant changes, like this player gets traded or he's traded, one of the players that was a significant starter and, they move on from this player or that player, or they make the changes here, changes there. It's really like bringing back Marcus Davenport, bringing in it's like little moves like that. I don't even know what that would look like, to be honest. Maybe Brad Holmes just has a come to Jesus moment and just says, you know what, we got to make some big changes. Let's change the approach, at least change my approach to how I handle the offseason, the draft. But I don't know if I feel confident in that. I don't know what significant changes look like, to be honest. You're not going to get rid of some of your star players that you're paying, or maybe players you're paying to be star players and they're not quite star players. I don't see them doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Please, what do you think?
I wrote down a 3-step process. Do you want to know my 3-step process? Well, first of all, what I want to say is this. We have, for the last couple of years, anytime anyone has had a pushback of Brad Holmes, what would the response to it? Let Brad cook, that, let Brad cook. I think this offseason, there just has to be a new theme towards it. And I think it's more like, and I don't know what it is. And we have good fans that maybe could come up with something, a loose slogan this offseason for Brad Holmes. But I think we're at the point now to where, hey, it was cute and it was really fun to have hey, trust in Brad Holmes, let Brad cook and all of that merch and, all of that. That was very fun and cute. I think you're at a point now, missing the playoffs, where it's like, I think now Brad has to prove it again to the fans. He has to. There's no longer him being able to go into the media, Jeff, this offseason with that cockiness of, hey, I built this. I'm the one that got you guys here. I got you guys your first playoff win in third. I don't think anyone cares at this point, right? I think Brad's tone needs to change a little bit in the sense of hey, Brad, there's no more let you cook. It's go out there and prove it and build again. Not just build again, and this time maintain. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it with Brad this offseason. You need to go do what you did year 1 and year 2 when it comes to the free agents and the draft, and then you need to find a way to maintain this thing. So my 3 steps. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Number 1. And Jeremy said it, and we've talked about it last week. The number 1 priority this offseason. And you know what, Jeff? I do not care if I'm being completely honest. There are maybe a handful of untouchable players on this roster, like an Amon-Ra, Panay, a Hutch, a Jack Campbell. There's a handful. I do not care what players you cut to save money, who you trade away to save money, and what you restructure. You need to do what you say, Brad Holmes, you're a great GM, and hey, let Brad, you need to go out there and cook, and you need to build an elite offensive line in one offseason. It's hard to do, and it took a while for this Lions team to do it, and quite frankly, and I think a lot of fans are pretty spot on with this, I put a couple tweets out after last week's game about how Brad let this offensive line slip, and a lot of fans, Jeff, hit me back with, hey, Booner, just so you know, Brad Holmes didn't even really build this offensive line. He didn't bring in Taylor Decker. He didn't bring in Frank Ragnow. He brought in Graham, Zeitler.
But Graham and Jonah Jackson at the time when Jonah was here they were Bob Quinn picks.
Yes. Yeah. He picked Panay Sewell, which I will give him credit for that, and Tate Ratledge. Yep. Those are the 2. But before that, it wasn't a Brad like that. They, before he got there, built this whole line, and he capitalized off that. So Brad has an offseason, something he hasn't really fully done yet, and he needs to build an offensive line. And to be able to do that in one offseason, guess what? You have the recipe, Brad. Go look at what the Chicago Bears did. And I know they had money, but guess what you can do, Brad? Go find the money. No one's safe. No one. Like there's no one safe on this roster besides a handful of players. Ali McNeil gets paid. He's the 5th highest paid defensive tackle. Guess what? You're on the trade market. Whether you think he's a part of your culture or not, that's a lot of money for a guy who doesn't produce. See what I'm saying? Like there are guys out there, and there are guys on this football team. You're losing the Anzo deal. All right. Jared's making a $1 billion restructure. And there's going to be other guys on this roster that I think you need to look at, seriously look in the mirror and be like, all right, are they more important than us having an offensive line? Because I wrote it down here in my notes. Your offensive line being elite goes hand in hand with Jared Goff being elite. Because you won't win a Super Bowl if you don't have an elite offensive line. And Jared did play well this year, Jeff. But look at what it is, man. You need an elite offensive line to have an elite run game. You need that. And you need an elite run game for Jared to open up and to connect with Amon-Ra and J-Mo and those guys. So you have to find a way. I think that's step one. Step two, there's something that needs to end in the city of Detroit, and it needs to end next week when this Lions season is over. Brad Holmes needs to walk away from his little developmental projects. They need to be over with. The development guys, Sione Uvaki, Giovanni Manu, Colby Sorsdale, Broderick Martin, the guys that he tries to take a grasp at, guys that played in the CFL, guys that played in, I don't know, Western Kentucky, played FBS. Like, no, I'm out. I'm out on him. You're done. Because what did he do the first 2 or 3 years here when he had elite drafts? He didn't go out and take chances on guys like that. The guys that hit in those later rounds played for legit teams. Amon-Ra hit, sleeper. Where did he play? USC. Pretty big football squad, right? Was a great wide receiver in high school, very well known. Kirby Joseph, where did he play? In the Big Ten. Very well known.
Productive, too.
Yes.
Productive.
And so people want to be like, well, he's hit on these other. The reason he hit on those is because he didn't look at and go out there and be like, I want developmental guys. No, those are guys that played instantly. Those are guys that made impacts now. I don't understand in the last 2 years how the mindset of, hey, man, like, let these guys develop. Give them some time. But why didn't those other guys get the time? They came in and produced instantly. So for me, it's you draft to win now. You no longer draft to develop. You're out on that. I don't care if it's 5th round, 6th round, 7th. I do not care. You draft for win now guys or win now guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's to me, that's a step 2 in this process. Because there's three things this offseason. It's O-line, the NFL draft, and no more developmental players, Jeff. You're Giovanni Manu. I know you love him.
No,
Done.
I'm with you. Caught him.
And then the last one, the third one, something that Brad, I don't know why this last year, the only big player I think he brought in last year, I guess he brought in a corner with DJ Reed. But he needs, and I'm just going to say it quite frankly, and this is when it comes down to kind of number one again, where you need to just go into this roster and get just dead money out of there, guys who don't want to produce and who are you're paying. You need to just cut guys and trade guys, but you need to have like a splash free agency. And I know people are going to be like, Booner, they don't have the money to do it. Like
maybe you can get someone to take less money. Maybe you can get like
100% you can, because last year there were all those edges that went out there and signed cheaper deals and wanted to go play for certain teams. But do you know what Brad did? He paid Levi Onwuzurike instead. He paid Marcus Davenport instead. He paid the guys in-house to stay that he thought, hey, they'll be good. And instead of paying Kevin Zeitler or going out and getting another offensive lineman, he paid 2 defensive linemen the amount of money you would have paid another guard. So you need, in my opinion, Jeff, it's the number 3 step this offseason. There's 3 things in the offseason. What do you do with your current roster, the draft, and free agency? So that's essentially the 3-step. You need to go get an elite free agent class. You need it. You have to change this roster up a little bit. And I think at the bottom line, all this starts with just making moves that might not be what you want to do. You have to make a splash that's not going to be fun. You're going to have to get rid of guys that you really like.
Yeah, you know what the big hot commodity player is right now? And it's a player that I can see leaving his current organization, and I think it's a name to watch for the offseason, is Tyler Lindenbaum. And I know Doc, I think it was, or not Doc, excuse me, it's Sports Illustrated, but it's out in with the Ravens. I don't know if Doc knows that person, but Tyler Lindenbaum from the Ravens actually commented on his contract because he's a free agent. And now people are saying if Frank doesn't come back, that you're going to need to pivot. And all Tyler Lindenbaum said when asked about his contract extension, by the way, he's a young center, plays for the Ravens. He said he'll let his agent handle all that. And Mark Andrews and Travis Jones, 2 players on the Ravens, just got paid. So if people are, looking to make a splash in free agency, Tyler Lindenbaum, center from the Ravens, he's 25 years old. If I'm not mistaken, and I'll tell you right now, actually, let me see. Tyler Lindenbaum, let me tell you. He's the 6th highest graded center according to PFF. So he had a really good year with the Ravens, even though their offensive line hasn't been good. He's been really the only thing good on that offensive line. That could be a player if the Ravens are kind of cap strapped and they're paying other guys right now that maybe, to your point, Booner, you go out in the offseason, you say, hey, let's go make a big move. Let's bring in a young center that can come here. He's played center, not taking a center and, hoping he grows. No, you'd have Tyler Lindenbaum, Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell. We'll see what happens with Taylor Decker. Yep. Maybe if he retires, you get more money there to go pay Tyler Lindenbaum. But that would be a move that I think many people would look at and be like, okay, I got you.
Yeah, I just think like
agency. Who knows?
The biggest point that I'm trying to make, especially with the free agency in the third step, is just more so the comment that we heard a lot from Brad, quote unquote, or not quote unquote, but like essentially like he didn't say it word for word, but it was, hey, we love the guys that we have in house. Like we trust these guys. He used to say that all the time about the D line, and I feel like with the O line, like they loved these guys that they have. And I think there's a point with all this. It's like I just don't want to hear that this offseason because you just missed the playoffs. It's not like you just came up short in the NFC Championship game and you just didn't get to the Super Bowl. Like that's different to me. Like you can build off that. You don't really have much to build off when it comes to this last season. You don't. Like there's nothing within that to where you're like, hey man, I'm very comfortable with all these guys on this O-line. I'm not. You have to go out there and make the moves. And I think the worst thing Brad could do in this end of season press conference is next week when he does get asked about free agency and when he does get asked about this offensive line is if he makes a comment of, hey, we love what we have. That's the worst thing that could come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like Streams only said, we like our guys. And that's why I think like free agency, man, you have to make some splash moves and you have to listen, dude, like I know they love their guys, man. Like that's the one thing they've built off is like it's like a grit culture, but also like a family culture. If you work and you give us what we want, we'll do the same to you. But you just missed the playoffs, man. There is no more, hey man, you pat my back, I'll pat your back. It's out the door. That's out the window. Everything's out the window when you miss the playoffs, in my opinion.
I think if Frank Ragnow doesn't come back, I think when you're talking about what Brad Holmes should do in free agency, rebuilding an offensive line, go sign Tyler Lindenbaum. By the way, fun fact, he was he was college teammates with Jack Campbell for 3 years. So he played at Iowa. Go spend some money, Brad. However, like you said, however you got to free up money, restructure deals. Maybe Taylor retires, whatever the case may be. If Frank does not come back, that's a move they can make. Rebuild your O-line. I'm with you. And Brad's, not that he would do it, but it'd be very nice if you just get a scenario where he comes to the press conference at the end of the season press conference and he's like, hey man, we have to change the way we approach some things. There are some things like take a little bit of accountability. Again, I'm not saying the guy's got to just admit he's wrong about everything because he's not going to do that, but just take a little bit of accountability and be like, you know what, clearly this is a wake-up call to this organization, or at least me and Dan. Me and Dan got to be better. We got to be better, and we expect better. And our approach this offseason is going to be, let's try and make the Detroit Lions back to a legit Super Bowl contender with the resources we have. And you might have to make some tough decisions. You might have to, say goodbye to guys that you fans, or at least fans might be sick of now, but fans liked at some point. But to your point, man, got to make those tough decisions. Whether it's getting rid of players you paid or not. Not like, and hope Brad's not stubborn enough to keep guys he's paid just because he's paid them. Like, you can still, like, look what the Broncos did. The Broncos paid Russ, ended up cutting him because they were like,
yeah, you're just going to take a hit on some guys, man. But you have to make moves. You can't sit on your hands, and you have so much money. That's why I do think Brad, like looking back, knowing the holes you have on this team, and I think the wrong approach that Brad took, this is where things started to turn right. And I didn't notice it. Maybe you did, Jeff. Maybe some fans did. But when you talk about, it's just actually starting to hit me in real time. This is the dumbest thing of all time. When you talk about we have to pay players, so we have to be able to find cheaper guys, like Brad's preached that the last year, correct? He's been like, we got to pay our guys, so there are going to be, we're going to have to, some guys have to step up. It's going to be harder for us. But at the same time, Brad's developed in the draft. That makes no sense. Why would you draft developmental guys when you know you're going to need guys to impact you instantly because you're paying guys? You can't have it both ways. You really can't. It's impossible. It's impossible. In time, like in this moment of time, you need rookie guys to make impacts because you are paying so much money to your dudes. But instead of going out there and drafting guys that can impact now, you made the decision the last two drafts to draft based off of development. But at the same time, you wanted to pay guys. You can't do both. You just can't. If you're going to pay guys, you have to draft win now guys. You did not do that. It just hit me a little bit there.
No, because that's, if we were watching the NFL, you see organizations, that's good. That's the difference between good and great. Great organizations, and you're not always going to hit on players, but if you can draft guys that are impactful, that are on rookie deals right away, that's what helped. That is a massive advantage. If you have a developmental player, Booner, and you're taking multiple guys that are developmental players over like a 2-3 year stretch, they might take 2-3 years to become a decent to good player. At that point, you have about a year of control left. Like, the whole point is, and I get it. If you want to take a guy, maybe you see size-wise, you take a chance every once in a while. You have a pretty good draft class, but you're like, hey, man, this guy in the 6th round, we'll just take a flyer on him. But when you're using premium picks to draft developmental players often, there's a massive risk that it sets you back if they do not hit. And there's been so many. Broderick, Giovanni, you took Hendon, which, again, I'm not as mad about swinging on a quarterback, but again, whatever. You still took him in the 3rd round. That one I won't really harp too much on. It was a miss. But Giovanni, Broderick, I'm missing somebody. I mean, he took another player that was developmental. Even the injured guys coming into the NFL that we always hated. Guys that were injured coming into the NFL that stayed injured. That's another thing that they kept battling. You're drafting Ennis Rakestraw. He was injured. It's just, Pascal was dealing with injuries coming into the season. I saw that just got brought up. Pascal was dealing with injuries. He was injured. Levi had injuries. He had an injury. Ennis Rakestraw, I think, had like an ACL tear and like some hamstring injuries. He's injured again. Like, again, they can't control injuries, but it's just a common theme. You're drafting guys with injuries, they stay injured.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the reality, man. You might feel like, man, we're getting a steal. You're just not. Now, I'll ask you before we move on. Mike Vlenny had the take today where he brought up they should draft a quarterback and pull a Packers draft one.
My take on quarterbacks.
Well, in the 1st round.
What did I say a month ago before Vlenny?
You should take quarterbacks every year.
I also said don't be shocked in the next year or two if out of nowhere the Detroit Lions draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds.
Wow. So 1st round, he said 1st round quarterback, do what the Packers did, develop that player. I
don't think this year. I'm out on this year just based off of the draft class in general. But I said a month ago to you, Jeff, do not be shocked in the next year or two if that's something they decide to do.
I know I looked at the quarterback class just to like refresh my memory again. I mean, you have Fernando Mendoza, okay, who's going to go top 3, maybe probably number 1. Dante Moore could go back. Ty Simpson could go back. And then you're at Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer, Carson Beck, Drew Aller, and Cade Klubnik. Like, I mean, who are you taking? I mean, I don't know. Who are you taking? I don't know. Maybe if Dante Moore comes out, maybe that could be intriguing, but he'll probably go top 10. Some team will take him because it's not a great quarterbacks are a hot commodity, and there's not too many this year.
No.
Now next year you have I think this is 2027. I believe it. You have CJ Carr, DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Drew Mestamaker, the guy who's balling at North Texas, Dylan Raiola, Julian Sayin, Lenore Sellers. Like next
There's
year,
a lot.
it could be a better quarterback class.
I think the biggest thing is like if you fall in love with the guy during the process, it's like that with the Hendon Hooker thing. And again, like I've said it for a while. Like people bring up how he swung and missed on Hendon Hooker. I'm out on that. Like I'm fine with him doing that. I think it's okay to draft quarterback.
Yeah, I see. You take a swing on it. I mean, I'm not as.
No, I've been on this train for years now. You've known me for what, 4 or 5 years now. I've said this since day one of me being in this industry is if you are a Super Bowl contender, want to continue to be one and be in that event, like you have to keep trying to get that next quarterback because quarterbacks, like unless you're Tom Brady and you have Tom for 20 years or, you know, at some point you're going to lose your quarterback. And it's better to be ahead of the game than behind it to where if you do lose Jared Goff at any point or anything comes up, you have that guy in the building ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I look at it. And to have the next man up. So then to where if that does happen, you never drafted a quarterback and you just never addressed it and you just have no one. And then you have to like use assets to trade. You have to go get a free agent. You have to, I don't know, you have to kind of, you're running around head spinning, trying to figure it out. But if you can get a guy in these buildings the next couple of years and that could be your future, just saying.
You never know. Now, I did see this today too. Louis Riddick, Klotz's guy. He tweeted out today. This has to be at the Lions. I mean, there are some teams that probably this would be like the Bucs, or I guess would be another team. But he tweeted this out. He says, it isn't always Super Bowl or you suck and you should fire your coach and the window's closed and you should trade your quarterback and gain a bunch of picks and reset the salary cap and blah, blah, blah. Shit happens. Teams have bad years. Players get hurt. Assistant coaches changes happen. Chemistry gets thrown off. Doesn't mean the end of the world. Reading a lot of these posts today, and you would think that, though. Now, Louis Riddick's been interviewed to be a GM. So this is kind of coming from a guy who, again, former player, has a similar mindset of like kind of a GM. So he's kind of speaking from that standpoint. Now, every situation is different. Okay. Philly is different from Tampa, different from Detroit. Everything's kind of different. Everything's situation's not the same. But I think what Louis is saying to some extent, depending on the situation, can be true. I think there's some instances where you look at and you're like, hey, things just didn't work out this year. Whatever. I think part of that was last year. People felt like, the injuries caught up to them. They, got bounced, whatever. And even though people are like trade Goff because he had a bad game against the Commanders, I can see how some situations you might be able to say that. I think where where I think this doesn't apply to the Lions is, when it says assistant coaches changes happen, chemistry gets thrown off, doesn't mean the end of the world. I mean, it's not, if you want to say the end of the world, if you want to change the verbiage, it's not like those assistant coaches are coming back, Louis. Like it, like you have to figure it out. It's very hard when the Eagles lose Kellen Moore or the Lions lose Ben Johnson, especially when you're not a play calling head coach. It kind of does feel like the end of the world because you got to go find another guy, and the Eagles got to go find another Kellen Moore. It's hard. It's really hard, man, to find a really good play caller in this league. That's why they all become head coaches quickly. So I think what Louis is saying, to some instances, can be true. And I think I do agree with him that they should just trade their quarterback and reset the salary cap. I get all that. But overall, it is I do think the Lions are in a Super Bowl or bust position. And they said it themselves, Booner, before the year. Remember? They were talking like that. We're winning. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. So when they missed the playoffs, there is a part of me that's like someone needs to fall on the sword. Like you can't just be like, well, it wasn't our year. Things happen. Like, no, like fortune, if a big time company was expected to have a massive 2025 year and that company fell off and declined rapidly, they wouldn't just be like, well, it wasn't our year. Next year we'll adjust and do better. Someone's getting fired, Boone. I mean, you know how this works.
Sure.
I mean, so yeah, I get what Lewis is trying to say, but this Lions situation's a little different. I mean, we can all agree there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is I'm interested to see if who Louis Riddick is fully talking about, because the thing that throws me off a little bit, the trade your quarterback, that's obviously, there is a lot of talk right now with Jared Goff, and I think it's ridiculous. First of all, I know people think, oh, you guys will never put blame on Goff. Like, no, like obviously Goff in those big games, I think, I don't remember who was talking about it, but just talking about Goff the last 2 years, he essentially, like, Jeff, the fact of all of this is with Jared Goff, and the thing that I kind of hit me today, it might have been Valeni actually who brought it up. In the big games the last 2 years, like when season on the line, I think Valeni said Goff turns into Sam Darnold.
That's what he said, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like he's not wrong. Like, he really isn't, because you see, like, the Commanders game, all those turnovers. There's Vikings game where it's like you need to just stay alive. All these turnovers. It's like, yeah, it's essentially what it is. He's just a better Sam Darnold in that point. And I don't think it's like the worst comp, but does that mean, and I think that's more so like he turns into Sam Darnold when he doesn't have an elite offensive line or a good run game. And I think that's where maybe fans are on. I don't think it's something to where it's like, hey, just get rid of him. Because if you do, if Brad does his job correctly, the number one thing is making sure your quarterback is good to go. And he didn't do that this year. But I think like the Louis Riddick thing, can you throw that just back up there real quick? Because there was another part of it. I just want to make sure I get it right. Where he says gain a bunch of picks and reset the salary cap. That's where I have not seen, unless there's Lions fans that I'm just not connected with. Outside, like, I'm just not in that world on Twitter.
He's grouping teams in here, but like
okay, because that's something I have not seen.
Windows closed,
especially the salary cap one. Like, I haven't seen anyone be like reset the salary cap. Well, like I do agree with hey, you can get rid of some. What is that?
I have seen like the trade Goff, get a rookie QB, have all that money. That's what people.
Yeah, what rookie? What? So honestly, like, I would love for someone to tell me what rookie. I think it's so unrealistic. And in our group chat, Klotz keeps putting the Cam Ward thing. Klotz, if you're watching, I love you. But I think it's like the most he's like, I want Cam Ward so bad. You're not. I almost text back today and said, then become a Titans fan, because there's a 0% chance he's in Detroit. Like zero. Like, it's just not happening. It's like these are just like, it's like irresponsible NFL fans that like say the most outrageous and the dumbest things in the world. Like, it's so unrealistic. You're literally living a Madden dream. That's what it is. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and by the way, like,
tell me something useful. I want to hear something useful. You're not trading Jared Goff. Tell me something useful. Find a way to win with him. Stop telling me, Klotz, about Cam Ward. Tell me something useful in my life, please. Give me something smart. I want to hear something smart. I don't want to hear all these dumb, random players that can come to Detroit, because it's not going to happen. I want to hear something smart.
I don't even think I really agree. Like, there's two ways. There's two things to mention here. One, I agree with Valeni when it comes to, potentially not being opposed to, like, hey, maybe we can take a quarterback in the future, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. We can have that conversation. Me and you, you mentioned it. I agree with it. You should always look to get better across all parts of your football team, even if that matters, even if quarterback's in that equation. Do I think Jared Goff is an issue right now and he's the main issue and they should change quarterback? No, I don't. That's something you probably look at down the line, whatever, or next season, whatever the case may be. But the thing I don't agree with Lenny is calling him like Sam. He turns into Sam Darnold. Like, people forget. And again, two things can be true. One, he has played bad, and he did play bad in the Vikings game, and he did play bad in the Commanders game. Those two things are very true. The other thing that's true is Sam Darnold isn't even like Sam Darnold's played in one playoff game his whole career, and
I actually brought this up to you,
and he played terrible in that playoff game. They scored 9 points. I don't even think they had a touchdown in that game. So it's like Jared Goff in the run they made the NFC Championship game, he averaged like 300 yards a game, bro. I mean, he was balling. I mean, he had 280, 270 against the 49ers, 290 against the Bucks, and 280 against the Rams. No picks in the playoffs. Like he had a great playoff run. 4 touchdowns, 0 passes or 0 interceptions. 70% completion percentage. So when Darnold does that, and by the way, I would say the NFC Championship game is a pretty big game. No, we would say that's a pretty big game. It's an NFC Championship game. It's a game away from the playoff or the Super Bowl, and he gave you almost 300 yards, no turnovers in that game. I don't think he had a fumble. No, I don't think he had a fumble in that game, but he had no interceptions. So that's where I'm like, yeah, I do remember Josh Reynolds dropping some balls, and I do remember Dan Campbell making bad decisions, and I do remember Jahmyr Gibbs fumbling. But like, he's not that bad, dude. Like it's really not. It's really he's not really like he's not Sam Darnold. Clearly, Goff is. If I'm a GM and I'm looking at this team, I'm not looking at Goff right now. He's like the least. Now I'm going to restructure his contract. I'm restructuring that contract, but I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at coaching. I'm looking at we got to build no line. Just the reality. Which that's where I'll never disagree. I'll always, tip my cap and be like, you're right. When it comes to building an O-line around Goff, there's no arguing that. He's obviously not mobile. Like watching Brock Purdy last night, there's certain guys that like, okay, when the offensive line breaks down, Brock Purdy's running around looking like Kyler Murray out there. Okay, same with Caleb Williams, even though he has a better O-line. But still, like I get it. But it's easier to get worse at quarterback than it is to get better. It just is. So, and I'm not in love with this quarterback class. So maybe next year it's way better. Maybe you take a chance next year, draft a guy. Whatever. But yeah, that's where I'll disagree with Mike Valeni. I mean, I know he's being hyperbolic and saying Sam Darnold, but like, come on, man. Sam Darnold, he had one good year in his whole career. Like, and that's why I keep telling you the Seahawks to me are like, the Seahawks are a great team. They're a quarterback away. I still feel like that. I just don't think Darnold's he's a good, like he'll keep them steady, but we know what Darnold is, bro.
Yeah.
We've seen Goff play well in the playoffs. It's like, come on.
I just can't like I can understand, like I don't care like if people obviously criticize Jared Goff, like yeah, he has moments and he's there's been games where he's crumbled and he does like the big argument, he does need an offensive line, right, to be successful as a lot of quarterbacks. And yeah, the NFL has changed a little bit to more so of a mobile quarterback league. But that doesn't mean you can't win with a non-mobile quarterback. You've seen it a lot. Manning, Tom Brady. You could argue Stafford can run a little, but you can argue Stafford. Like you can win. You can win with a non-mobile quarterback. It's just about what you put around them. And the issue that I just have, like when Goff just constantly gets brought up, and this is just like, again, for the people who are like, you guys don't criticize Goff ever. You never blame. Like, no, like, he does have blame for this. He is the quarterback of the team. Just like I am someone who gives wins to quarterbacks as a stat. Like I'm going to the losses, especially when you have 5 turnovers, it falls on you. But like the people who just constantly go at Goff and act like, oh, we want this player, like it's just so unrealistic. You're wasting my time. You're wasting my breath. Like I've got better things to listen to and talk about than that. Like it's not happening. You're not trading Goff and you're not getting rid of Goff. It's gonna get restructured. You're gonna be with him. Talk to me about something that actually matters. Like, let's break down how you're gonna fix everything around Goff to put him in the best chance to win a Super Bowl. Right? You see what I'm saying, Jeff? Like, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
We've seen you.
It's old.
And I get it. I understand watching the NFL game, especially this weekend where the Lions don't play, and you're seeing Josh Allen almost pull that game off against the Eagles. And you're like, Josh Allen's incredible. I get it. I understand it. You're seeing these guys run around, make plays. I get it. It's like that nice sports car in your neighborhood or whatever. And you're not driving. You're like, man, I just want to drive that thing. That thing looks sweet. It's awesome. But then you don't realize how rare, like you don't see those all the time. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. There's one of him. Like Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall pick. Brock Purdy, you could find a Brock Purdy maybe, and Brock Purdy's not great, but I'm talking about just a mobile quarterback. I mean, Brock Purdy's fine. He's a good quarterback. But if you want a mobile guy, basically Goff and mobile, maybe you can find that somewhere in the draft. But it's hard. Quarterback's one of the hardest positions to hit on. It is the hardest position to hit on. And on top of that, usually the great ones are drafted high in the draft. So, you have a high pick this year in a bad quarterback class. So it's just the reality of it. unless you're trading up, I mean, you're not going to just find dudes, man. Like Bo Nix was the 20th. I think he was 20th or 12th.
He was like 12. Yeah, he was top
12.
15.
So there you go. I mean, it's not as easy as like.
I'm interested with Lions fans. If they would, I would love to do like a poll, or we should do that one day. Like, would you rather have Jared Goff or Bo Nix? Would you rather have Jared Goff or Michael Penix? Like, look at some of these guys that were drafted over the last few years and say, hey, would you rather have this guy?
Yeah, Bo Nix is interesting. I think Bo Nix is a good quarterback. I don't know what his ceiling looks like, but he can move. He's very smart. Sean Payton. If Sean Payton likes you, you're a bright dude, clearly. Penix, I'm not sure. Penix just had too many injuries.
Penix just gets injured all the time. So we would just never.
I feel really bad for the dude.
All you would see is Kyle Allen.
What'd you say?
All you would see is Kyle Allen.
Yeah, he gets hurt so much. That's the only issue. But Bo Nix, I don't know if it's not like we see. I don't know with Bo Nix. He's an interesting one. I don't know what his ceiling looks like.
But that's essentially what when you're making those comments of like draft a quarterback in the first round, like those are the guys over the last few years who were available outside of like, let's say, the top 5, right? Like, so those are the guys to where if you were to trade up and make a move, you'd probably trade up into that range. And if you're sitting there looking at it, like, would you rather have Jared Goff year one or this next year than like a year 1 Bo Nix or a year 1 Michael Penix?
Now, That's
the question.
Remember Josh Allen came out. What was Josh Allen? He was a project, and he
sat out for a while.
Yep, he had issues. He fixed a lot of things mechanically, and look what he turned into. I mean, he wasn't like some star-studded guy coming out of Wyoming either. I mean, he, even
had a lot of talent, a lot of upside.
Yeah, a lot of upside, and they took a chance on him, and it worked out. But even that, like, how many of those type of quarterbacks get taken that don't work out? I mean, it's a massive, massive risk. It just is. So again, not saying it can't happen, but I'm just saying be prepared. If for the people out there that want to get rid of Goff, okay, fine, get rid of him. What are you going to do? Draft a quarterback? There's probably an 80% chance you miss on that quarterback. So you might have to take a couple chances, or at least if you, unless you have the 20% chance that you hit on a quarterback, but then there's even a smaller chance that quarterback turns into a very good player, like Mahomes, Josh Allen level, where you're looking at like an elite guy. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round.
Yep.
And many people don't like Lamar. I mean, it depends how you feel. I think Lamar's a really good player, but I can see there's mixed opinions on him. Jackson Dart, he was the end of the first round guy. It can happen. Certainly. So we'll see. Maybe there's a guy they fall in love with this year. I don't know. I really like Dante Moore, but I think Dante Moore, he's just he was only started in like 20 games. So he'd be a guy you'd sit and develop in the next couple of years. And even then you're going to have to probably trade in the top 10 because think how many quarterbacks teams that need quarterbacks are going to be picking. Raiders, Jets. I mean, those are already 2 right there that are going to be picking. So there's 2. So Dante Moore would probably be the second guy coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's tough. You have the Cardinals? I think do they have the first? I think the Cardinals do. So yeah, Arizona. Just saying. I'm just saying. All right, it's 9:40. Let's get to it. I want to talk about it because we weren't able to talk about it because it happened, and now we can discuss it. Michigan hires former Utah head coach, all-time legend in Utah, Kyle Whittingham, had his press conference, and he had his press conference. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's great. And I'm going to play some of the clip here, and then Boone will give his thoughts on Kyle Whittingham, what he means for the program, and we'll kind of give our thoughts, what it means for Michigan moving forward. But here's the clip, Kyle Whittingham, as soon as he comes to the podium in the opening press conference.
All right.
Dog.
I'm operating on about 4 hours sleep in the last 3 days, so if I'm a little bleary-eyed, I apologize. But I can say without question what an honor it is to be here, what a privilege it is to be able to coach this football team, the University of Michigan, just a place that just reeks of tradition, academically, as good as anybody in the country, resource wise, so many things here at University of Michigan that are just absolutely top notch. One of the top universities in the world. And so it's an honor to be able to be in this position. Like I said, 21 years at Utah, stepped down a couple weeks ago. Wasn't sure if I was finished or not. I still had a lot left in the tank, but I knew that there was about, you can count on one hand the amount of schools that if they called, I would listen and I would be receptive to what they had to say. Michigan was one of those schools, definitely a top 5 job in the country, without a doubt. And so when the ball started rolling and the more I learned about Michigan, the more excited I got. And I'm just elated to be here. I had a chance to meet with the team last night. Great group of young men. They're eager. They were excited to have a head coach named. I mean, they were without a coach for a little bit, and so it was good for them to put a face to a name. And I'm going to be meeting with all those players individually over the course of the time I'm here at the Bull site, and can't wait to get back to Ann Arbor. I guess we call it the A2. Get back to the A2 and begin working with these young men. Putting together an outstanding staff. Can't give you any names right now. There's guys that are still working bowl games and playoffs and so forth. And so, but that will be forthcoming. And, like I said, I just can't say enough about how myself, my family, my wife is excited to be here. I'm a grandpa of 11 kids, 11 grandchildren. So they're all excited. I got some 8-year-old grandsons that are instant Michigan fans, and they've been playing college football now, and they've changed their team to Michigan on the college football game. But anyway, one thing you'll learn about me is I don't like to talk a lot. And so I'm would field questions, anything you got to ask, I'm here for you. But I'm one of those rare college football coaches that doesn't like to hear himself talk. And so go ahead and ask any questions here. Let's get started with that.
Kyle Whittingham, dude, the guy, that's an adult right there.
Dude,
that's a head coach. That's a program changer, program builder right there.
Yep.
Been around football for a while. He's coached with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer loves him. Absolutely loves the guy. He's very well connected, Boone, in college football. You might get some studs assistants, man.
Yeah.
Studs.
I mean, the name's out there, the BYU defensive coordinator. That's supposed to be a name. He's supposed to be potentially bringing his OC from Utah, who hasn't always been at Utah, but has been one of the better. I think last year Utah's had one of the best offenses in college football. This last season. So the rumors, they're starting to swirl. I'll tell you what, with Kyle Whittingham though, Jeff, like I think what was the number one thing that I said with the Michigan, like when you're hiring a coach, like you have to get the dirtiness out of this program. Like you have to. There's no question about it. Like you can't move on and bring in someone who has some sort of connection to this program that could just kind of linger there. Like if I'm Ward Manuel, especially for a guy with Ward Manuel, so many not allegations, but so many different things negatively that have happened in all of these different programs under him the last couple of years. For him to save his job, you had to go out there and get someone who's going to clean house and really turn this thing around. And I don't know if there's a better guy in college football. There's a handful. There's probably on one hand, you can count guys that would go in and the culture that you're really looking for is what Kyle Whittingham brings. That will literally day one change everything, and you can trust to run a clean program. That's the biggest thing. It's like you have to have a clean program, and Kyle Whittingham did it at Utah for 20 plus years, clean, nothing, and now he's bringing that to Michigan. I think it was, I honestly and I told you this when it happened, like for what was available and what you knew you could get, I thought it was an A+ hire for the availability. I thought like Michigan's lucky. The fact that Kyle Whittingham stepped down at Utah a couple weeks ago and it just lined up. To where he, still wanted to coach. And there was only, he said it himself, there's probably 5 or less teams in college football that he would have even considered not retiring for. And Michigan, obviously one of those. So I think they got lucky that he was available and he stepped down at Utah. Because like obviously he didn't win a national championship there, but like this last year they were ranked higher than Michigan, right? Utah with less resources, way less resources, better this year than Michigan. Almost made a college football playoffs. I think they were 14th or 15th in the rankings. And he steps down during that, right? And he's 66. I know people are like the age, all of that. I think my guy, Connor Stallions, tweet out. He goes, if you want to complain about Kyle Whittingham's age, who's the best college football coach right now in the country? Who's that? Who with the best team?
Well, he's
What's
an
his
older
name?
guy. Old Kurt.
Kurt Signetti. And people love Kurt Signetti. 18 months difference. He's about to be 65. Kyle Whittingham, 66. So it's not one of those things where you have a 75-year-old Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll's about to turn 80. Pretty sure. This is a guy who he said it himself later on in the press conference, like, he signed a 5-year deal. I'm coaching. Like, I'm building a program. So I think people should be pumped up for it, man. And there's already, like, one of the big things too is, like, will the players be receptive to it? It felt like that's one of these hires where players look at it and go, okay, I'll stay. Like, Jordan Marshall came out today and was like, I want to be at Michigan. And he straight up said it. Your running back straight up said it. He said he met with Bryce Underwood for 45 plus minutes. And he essentially said, we're building this offense to fit you like a glove. And when you hear that out of a coach, and I'm sure for Bryce, like, that's what you want to hear. And I really don't think, if I'm being honest with you, Jeff, I don't think the current players on the team liked playing for Sharon Moore last year.
No.
You heard the rumors that, like, Wink Martindale and all these guys and these coaches were butting heads with Sharon Moore, and Sharon was having, I don't know if you want to say, like, these temper tantrums, behind the scenes when coaches were recruiting and doing certain things and not keeping Sharon in the mix. I saw one article say that Sharon was, like, freaking out on coaches. And it sounded like when Biff came out, who's the interim right now, who did his press conference a couple weeks ago, Biff made the comment that, I don't know if people all real. He was like, these kids are enjoying playing football again. So it insinuates they just didn't have fun this last year playing football. And that's not a good look. Like, that's terrible. Kyle Whittingham's a guy that, like, he wants a culture, and he's a football guy, man. He really is. So I think it was an A+ hire for what was available, man. I think they got one of the better coaches in college football, Jeff. I really do. And I know that's crazy to say just because he's a Michigan guy now. But I truly do believe he's one of the best coaches in the country when it comes to every single thing that you need to have.
I'll back you on that. I think it's a great hire. I mean, he's won 10 or more games in about half the years he's coached. I mean, he has a near a 70% win percentage. The guy is consistent. He knows what it takes to build a program, sustain a program. And what Michigan needs right now is to be just they have a ton of talented players, but just sustained, brought back to being Michigan with kind of Jim Harbaugh. And I think with Kyle's resume, it is a perfect fit. He's an adult. I keep going back to that. He's an adult. He's going to bring in one hell of a staff. He mentioned he might keep some guys on the Michigan staff.
Already kept running backs coach that came over from Ohio State, Tony Alford.
Yeah. There'll be some guys that he keeps that he probably really likes, but think about the resources he's going to have at his disposal. I mean, he hammered that multiple times. Michigan's resources, NIL. He understands what the new age college football is, and Michigan's got a lot of money to spend. And when you have a coach like Kyle, that's a guy that he didn't have all the resources at Utah. And now at Michigan, he's going to be a guy that people want to come play for. Now imagine those Michigan-Ohio State games. They have Kyle Whittingham on the sidelines. Like, that's a guy schematically, defensive guy, great coach. You can hold your own. You're like, all right, from a coaching standpoint, we're not going to be, Sharon Moore's not going to be. You knew from a game-to-game basis against some of the better college football coaches, you're like, this guy's going to get coach circles around. At least Kyle Whittingham has seen a lot of football. I mean, he has. So it's a great hire. I agree with you. I think Michigan nailed it. Given that how late it was in the process and who was available, they got an adult. So
yeah. And I just say I think this is going to be something to where, like, if they can maintain this roster and Kyle Whittingham, like what he built in Utah, like he essentially, like, he built college football playoff teams in Utah, right? And he's won their conference there. Like, he has built that there. The resources he's about to have at Michigan, probably some of the biggest and most resources that anyone can have in the country. I would expect him to be able to build essentially what he did in Utah plus more. And in my opinion, like, even year one, I think next year, I think there's a chance he keeps a lot of these guys around, these players. I think a lot of this talent's going to want to stay with him. And then I think, like, in the transfer portal, I think he's going to do some work, man. Like, there are some guys from Utah I'm sure he's going to bring over. I'm sure he's already had some recruits. I know it's like the thing with James Franklin with Penn State going to Virginia Tech. Like James Franklin was like, listen, I didn't go and try and poach these players from Penn State, but these are guys that as a head coach, you have connections with. You know what I mean? Like you recruit them as a head coach, and you do bring like if he brings his OC, like all of those recruits, whatever offensive recruits they had there, like those guys were recruiting them. And you build that connection. So I'm sure some of those players are going to want to come that played for him or recruits coming in. So yeah, I think next year, if I'm being honest with you, Jeff, like I'm confident. And I told you this, depending on who they got, I don't know if they'll make the playoffs next year. I think with Kyle Whittingham, you have a good chance.
You should expect that he could.
Yeah. And if he does fall short, then and you know what, I'm okay with it. Outside of like Sharon fell short this year, but he did last year 1, and I was okay last year with Sharon falling short. But I was like, but year 2, you have to get back to it. And I've said it all along. 2 years at Michigan, you're one of those elite programs. Your expectations is the college football playoffs. I think Whittingham will do that within the next 2 years at Michigan. And I wouldn't question that at all.
By the way, Stafford, no, he's no longer MVP, right? Drake May.
Dude, he is. Yeah, dude, Stafford, I thought was hands down, no doubt. All he had to do was just play average today. He's just played so bad. He has 2 interceptions, no touchdowns.
Against the 6-9 Falcons.
For a second, I thought maybe the Falcons had a chance. Is Blake Corum back in? I don't know. Blake Corum got hurt.
Crazy. Bijan Robinson's going crazy today.
Good for whoever. I mean, this is what's crazy with Bijan is it's championship week for fantasy football this week. So Bijan's probably winning so many leagues for people.
Oh, he's going nuts. I mean, yeah, 11 for 125, a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown too. Yeah, that's ridiculous. By the way, there's some super chats I want to get to. Blitzing Lion, thanks for the $2. He says we have no picks due to Brad Boone. Talking about earlier about that conversation. Yeah, they might have to use future capital to get current capital. I don't know what's going to go on, or trade players. Either way, appreciate the 2, appreciate the 5 as well. Blitzing Line. He says, look at T-Law. Last year he was 20th ranked quarterback. Now they are first in the AFC South. Coaching matters. Yep, I agree with that. Bro. Nobody appreciate the $2. Says mailbag. Will there be morning shows this week? So New Year's Eve.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't think I'm just to be honest. Like I'm not doing a morning show on New Year's Day.
Yeah, no, on New Year's.
I'll do a night show New Year's Day. There's just no chance.
Yeah, no, we're probably it's going to be normal this week.
We're just off on Wednesday.
Yeah, no show on New Year's Eve. So, yeah, that's the schedule as of right now.
a New Year's Day morning show, 8 a.m. on New Year's Day. Want to do that?
I will look like a zombie.
Yeah, no, there's just no chance I would be able to.
I might still look like a zombie come 8 p.m. Who knows?
Oh, for sure. But like it's a lot. It'll be a lot better.
Yeah, no, it will. Yeah, that's by the way, I was thinking too, like the Ram. I'm gonna see what the Rams are about to lose 2 straight, right? They're let's see. Actually technically they lose tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll lose 3 of their last 5 going into the playoffs. Well, going into the Cardinals game, 3 of the last 5, which they should beat the Cardinals. So it could be 3 of the last 6. Sometimes in the NFL, man, like you can win a lot of games, but you got to get hot for the playoff, right before the
right time. That's like with the Lions, man. It's just you got to get hot the right time. You just don't ever.
Like, the Rams are kind of slipping now. They don't have Devontae, but still, like Puka's not doing anything tonight. He really isn't. It's just how it is. Like, I don't know. And then someone said I forgot who said it in the comments. I got to find the comment. Oh, right here. T. I see what the Rams are doing. They're trying to face the NFC South in the playoffs, not trying to see the Eagles in the first round. That might help.
Smart. Is it a smart move what they're actually doing?
It might help. It might help their seeding for sure. If they lose tonight, because what are they? 11-4. They're probably gonna go 12-5. I think they win next week.
They were never gonna. They're not winning their division though, which is it's crazy to think that they're not winning their. Do you remember when we did that division in the offseason? Do you remember everyone's picks?
You had the Seahawks? 49ers.
I picked the 49ers. And Klotz, it was a pizza bet. We did a pizza bet with him. That he said, let's do a pizza bet on the Rams to get the first overall seed.
I think
So-
you convinced me to switch my division winner at that time.
To the 49ers?
Yeah.
Might have. But me and you made a double pizza bet with Klotz. I think people remember we made a double pizza bet with Klotz. He said that the Rams, we said we would get him 2 pizzas and he has to get us 2 pizzas, each of us one, if the Rams aren't the first overall seed and the 49ers win the division. And guess what's happening?
They might win the division. They won 6 games last year, so they had an easier schedule than the Rams, but still, like they're about to win. What do they have? They're 11-4 too, right?
Who are the
Or
Rams?
11 and
who?
what are they? 11-5.
49ers?
No, 49ers.
12. 12.
12, and that's what they are. They could win 13 games.
Yeah. Well, the winner. So I think this is what I'm saying. Like on Saturday, I don't like, and people do realize it, but this weekend's games. Did you see the games on Saturday? So
No.
at 4:30 on Saturday, you have Panthers Bucks for the division on 4:30, and then at 8 o'clock you have Seahawks 49ers for that division, and then the next day you have for the AFC North Sunday Night Football. You have the Ravens Steelers for the division. You have 3 games next week for the division, and 2 of them are on Saturday. And in the one game, Seahawks 49ers. That's insane. How often do you ever get that on week 18? And you usually don't. Usually almost every division's essentially locked up week 18. And you don't have like the actual matchups. So you have 3 championship games this weekend.
Wow. That's crazy.
I don't know if that's ever happened
And I
before.
think
At least
DK's
that I
out in
remember.
that game, ain't he? For the Steelers?
Could be. Yeah. Oh yeah, he is. No, it could be. He is. He's suspended.
What an idiot, man. Life with Chris. Appreciate the 10. He says, been watching y'all for a good minute. Y'all inspired me to do my own show. I love how y'all was at situation, didn't work out, and y'all took the leap of faith. I was about to do the same. Much respect. Appreciate that, Chris.
Appreciate it, Chris. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, if we're inspiring you, keep going, bro. Keep making content. Keep grinding. Appreciate
I
the
think
$1,
that's actually so sick too, because I mean I've watched people that inspired me to do now what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of a
Yeah, keep doing your thing, bro. Be consistent at it. It's really the bottom line. I mean, ebbs and flows are going to come. I mean, we've been battling that. I mean, YouTube, we've changed a lot of things. You keep trying things. I mean, that's really what we're learning, I think, at the end of the day. So it's not always linear. All right. By the way, Doc tomorrow, because no Wednesday show. So Doc tomorrow instead of Wednesday. So be there tomorrow for the Doc. It'll be a great show. I can't wait to talk to him. I know he's in our chat today. He's probably has a bunch of opinions he has to get out. And then I'm trying to get a Bears guy for later in the week, so we could talk to someone from the Bears side. I think that'll be a really good conversation. So good shows planned for the week. We'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate all the support. By the way, turn on the notification bell. Get alerted when we post on YouTube. Follow us on social media. It's all in the chat, or excuse me, in the description of our YouTube. Follow us on social media. And what else? Get your merchandise. officialctsports.com. Go grab your merch. Till tomorrow with the DOC.
love you guys. The Doc tomorrow.
We'll catch you.
Come on now.